Hello, dear viewers. Today I'm going to be sharing with you a selection of native plant seeds that are provided for free by one of my local town organizations, the Southborough Open Space Preservation Commission. This group not only provides free native seeds, they also provide workshops in winter sowing, as well as a number of initiatives that support at-risk native pollinators. I'm going to share with you a little bit about each of the plant types that I have selected this year. But before I do that, let me tell you a little bit about this program. From the website, the Southborough Open Space Preservation Commission is once again hosting a winter sow program. You can have beautiful flowers while helping our most at-risk pollinators. Our native plants have co-evolved with New England weather patterns, and most native plants require a period of repeated freezing and thawing for their seeds to break dormancy and germinate. We are offering over 60 varieties of seeds this year. The Open Space Preservation Commission Winter Sow program allows you to order seeds for free, and then we'll show you how to plant in milk jugs to replicate the needed weather conditions so that you will have wonderful plants next summer. Using this simple method of planting in milk jugs that are placed outside over winter, you will be amazed with the bounty of native plants even the most inexperienced gardener can grow for their gardens with extras to share with friends. No gardening experience necessary.
Very good.
This program is part of the Open Space Preservation Commission Native Plant, Native Pollinator Initiative. Since 2015, the OSPC has been working with Dr. Robert Jigir, UMass Dartmouth Assistant Professor of Biology. Breakneck Hill Conservation Land was his first research site after he discovered one of Massachusetts' most at-risk species of bumblebees on a visit to the site. His research has resulted in a plant list for at-risk pollinators. All of the seeds being offered were collected from plants on his list, except a few that were approved by him for inclusion. Also, check out his Beecology Project app. Here's a bit about it. Be a citizen scientist. See a bumblebee in your yard during an outing anywhere in New England. Use our Beecology app to capture it in a picture or video. Our app will guide you through an easy sequence of steps to identify your bumblebee species and submit your picture to our database. In addition to learning about bumblebees, you will be contributing to the science by helping us map bumblebee species in New England and what flowers they like. Agastache scrophularifolia, or purple giant hyssop. This is an herbaceous perennial that takes sun or shade, dry, medium, or wet soils. It gets to be 5 to 6 feet tall and has a special value to bumblebees and other native bees, also attracting butterflies. Blooming July, August, and September. I have a well-established plant already in my yard along my street front, and I have another that doesn't really love its spots, so maybe it'll get well established eventually. And then I planted some more last year on my street front, and I'm growing it again because it is a beautiful, stately plant. Its leaves just smell ridiculously delicious. I would describe its shape as sort of like a candelabra, and it looks fairly different from a lot of the other plants that I'm growing, so it's nice to have that visual change. And like I said, it's just the bloom spike is just beautiful, and the plant itself is a really lovely one. Anaphalis margarietaceae, pearly everlasting, a herbaceous perennial that takes full or part sun, medium or dry soils. Gets to be 1 to 3 foot tall and is a larval host to skippers and painted lady butterflies. Blooms July, August, and September. I love this one for spots in my yard that have very dry conditions. It'll take poor soil too, so if you have a spot in your yard that most plants don't really like to live in, this one will probably like it. It is a silvery foliaged plant with really fuzzy leaves. It has little white flowers that are very distinctive, and it's relatively short, about a foot tall or so when it blooms. I have this plant in maybe 3 spots, and I'm growing some more because I want to basically add more to those same spots. Andropogon giardii, or big blue stem. This is a grass that takes full or part shade, medium or wet soil. 4 to 8 feet tall, has a special value to native bees as it provides nesting material and structure. Blooms May and June. This is an incredibly important grass species for an ecosystem of native plants. It is a host to a variety of species of butterflies, lots of skippers, and beetles and other things. Its roots are very deep, so it is also really great for soil health. Visually, it's a very appealing plant because it provides foliage all the way from the very lowest ground level all the way up to like 3 or 4 feet or something like that. When you're and when you're planting a lot of meadow type native plants, ones that have a single stalk that grows up and flowers sort of at the top area, you need something to fill in that space, ground level and up. And grasses really do a good job of that. This one is a good clumping grass with both aesthetic uses as well as ecological ones. Antenaria plantaginefolia, or pussy toes, a herbaceous perennial, taking full or part sun, dry soil. 4 to 8 inches tall. Special value to native bees as it provides nesting materials and structure. Blooms August. I have this particular variety of pussy toes in the same areas that I have a couple of other pussy toes as well as some pearly everlasting and sweet everlasting. If you have a spot that has dry soil or poor soil, this will be a great plant for that. It'll also grow in wetter conditions. It's just, sometimes it's hard to find places. Sometimes it's hard to find plants that will grow in those tough spots. It will take a little bit of walking on, so if you put it next to paths or in between cobblestones or something, that's a really good sort of, it's a really nice way to use it. You can also mow it, so if you add it to your lawn, if you don't want a monocrop lawn, this is a nice one to sort of add in to that. Aquilegia canadensis, or red columbine, a herbaceous perennial that takes part shade to shade, dry, medium, or wet soil. Up to 3 feet tall, special value to bumblebees and other long-tongued insects and hummingbirds. Likes moisture but needs to have well-drained soil. Blooming April, May, and June. If you're new to having native plants in your yard, this is a really good one to start with. It grows easily, it has beautiful foliage, it has really lovely sort of upside down red flowers that are very distinctive looking. It blooms early in the spring and it really is the star of the show. It likes best partial shade. It does not like full sun. So put it somewhere that gets a little shade. And if you're into collecting seeds, this one is a really easy one to collect seeds from, and it grows really well from seed. I will caution you that if you have cultivated or non-native columbines, they can cross with this one. So if you do save seed, you may want to just be aware of that. Asclepias exalta, poke milkweed, herbaceous perennial, likes full or part sun, dry to medium soil, 3 to 4 feet tall. Special value to bumblebees and other native bees and milkweed specialists. Attracts butterflies and hummingbirds, host for the monarch butterfly caterpillar. Blooms July and August. This is what I would consider a woodland milkweed versus a common milkweed or some of the others which really like full sun. So I consider them more sort of meadow milkweeds. This one, its flowers are not as big or distinct, although they're a little bit more delicate, but they are just as striking. And it has a lot more foliage. Its leaves are bigger and more pronounced, I guess. Trying to suck in all the light from the woodland area. Uh, so I don't have it in my yard yet. This will be my first year growing it, but I do have some really nice shady spots, and I'm excited to try it out. Asclepias incarnata, swamp milkweed or rose milkweed. Herbaceous perennial, full or part sun, dry to medium soil. 3 to 4 feet tall, special value to bumblebees and other native bees and milkweed specialists. Attracts butterflies and hummingbirds, hosts for the monarch butterfly caterpillars. Blooms July and August. This milkweed is another plant that's really great if you are new to using native plants in your garden or if you have a smaller garden area. Common milkweed can be very aggressive. This particular milkweed is not. This is swamp rose milkweed or rose milkweed. It stays put where you plant it and doesn't spread out. It has a beautiful pink flower, more pink than mauve. The common milkweed is sort of a mauve color, and this one is pink. And this one has sort of narrow blade-like leaves and a lot more leaves. It's a good one if you like your garden to look less wild, but yet still want to support the monarch butterfly. This one will do well in your average garden soil, so medium soil, medium moisture soil. But if you have low-lying spots or wet spots or places that get standing water, this is a phenomenal plant to put there. It will just suck that water right up and use it, and you'll get beautiful flowers out of it. It doesn't mind heavy soils. It doesn't mind wet feet. Asclepias verticillata, or world milkweed. Herbaceous perennial, full to part sun, medium to dry soil. 1 to 3 feet tall, special value to native bees, attracts butterflies, host for the monarch caterpillar. Blooms July, August, and September. Verticillata is a small statured milkweed plant, growing to about 2 feet tall or so. The flowers are smaller, the leaves are smaller. The leaves actually look a little bit like rosemary leaves. They're sort of really thin and long. It blooms white. This one is a really dry soil loving plant. So if you've got one of those spots that's really dry, this is an excellent milkweed for that. I've been trying to get some established among my common milkweed so that it um, fills in that medium to low area visually. So that's why I'm growing some more. I have some already, uh, and I'm trying to grow some more. Astragalus canadensis, or Canada milkvetch. Herbaceous perennial, full to part sun, medium to dry soil, 1 to 4 feet tall. Blooms May, June, and July. This one is a new one for me. It has a cream-colored flower with a bit of a green tint to it. The flowers are long tube-shaped flowers that grow on spikes. It likes medium to moist soils. Baptisia tinctoria, yellow wild indigo. Herbaceous perennial, full to part sun, dry, medium, or wet soil. 2 feet tall, special value to bumblebees and other native bees, attracts butterflies, host for frosted elfin and wild indigo dusky wing caterpillars. Blooms June, July, and August. I did finally get seedlings to transplant out last year, so I haven't seen it bloom in my garden yet. But it does have small, brightly yellow flowers. It is a very shrubby looking baptisia, a little smaller than like an astralis. In the fall, it has these dark black seed pods that are really very attractive. I'm hoping to get more of this established along my street front area. Blophilia ciliata, downy wood mint. Herbaceous perennial, part sun, dry soil. Forms a clump 1 to 2 feet high. Blooms May, June, July, and August. I have grown these before. I'm hoping to get more established in the same area. They have purple flowers that are sort of in stacked clusters, so they look like little towers, which is really kind of cool. They're similar in look to Monarda, but they're also in the mint family. So they do smell lightly of mint, which is kind of nice. Blophilia hirsuta, hairy wood mint. Herbaceous perennial, part sun, medium to dry soil. 1 to 2.5 feet tall. Blooms May, June, July, August, and September. This one has the same sort of stacked flower puff look to it, except the flowers are white versus the other one, which has purple flowers. And the foliage on this one seems to me to be a little bit darker. And just as the other one, I'm trying to get this established along my street front, so I'm growing some more plants to add to the ones that I've already got. Carex radiata, a grass, a host plant. Full or part sun, medium to wet soil. 2 to 3 feet tall. I already have what I think is Carex radiata in my garden underneath one of my large trees. I'm going to grow this and I'll be able to compare. Sedges, these Carex species are really hard to distinguish between sometimes. So I can't be for certain that what I have that's volunteered is exactly the same species. So I'm going to try to figure that out. Um, These are really pretty plants. They're very grassy looking, they're clump forming, and the flowers on them and then their seed heads later, they look like little tiny stars. So if you could imagine like a grassy area in the shade with just these little sparkly bits of white stars floating amongst all the grassy leaves, it's a really fetching plant. Carex vulpinoida, or brown fox sedge, a grass, full to part sun, medium to wet soil, 1 to 3 feet tall, companion plant for the wood betony, host plant for butterflies. Blooms May and June. This is a wonderful and easy to grow grassy looking plant. It's a sedge, but it's got fine, delicate leaves and has a really nice, soft texture. Uh, it's it's the kind of plant that if you like large blocks of grassy plants, sort of in a mid-century style, you like this would be a really good plant for that. It's also one that's really good if you have low-lying areas or like rain garden type things. It likes to have wet feet, although it does perfectly fine in average soil. But if you've got one of those problem spots with too much water, this is a really good plant for that. Really fetching flower spikes too, sort of brown, sort of fuzzy looking flower spikes. Cirsus canadensis, eastern redbud, a tree, 15 to 30 foot tall tree, special value to native bees. Part sun, medium to dry soil, blooms March, April, and May. This is one of my all-time favorite spring trees. It has beautiful deep pink flowers in the spring that they cluster around the stem or the sort of trunks and branches of the tree, and they're very striking looking in that way. And then once the leaves fill in, the leaves are these big, deep green, heart-shaped leaves. Um, and often the tree takes on this sort of large, wide shade arching look to it, and it's just really one of my favorites. This native tree is also a really important anchor plant for a lot of different types of pollinators in the ecosystem. It is a good understory tree, so it stays smaller and you can grow it amongst taller trees. It's also a really good standalone tree on its own. Gets to be about 30 feet tall if you put it out in full sun. Chasmanthium latifolium, Indian oatgrass or sea oats, a grass, 2 to 3 feet tall, larval host plant for the salt and pepper skipper butterfly. Blooms August and September. This is an excellent specimen grass for your shady areas. It doesn't particularly like sun, so don't put it full sun, but anywhere part sun to shade. Um, it's got a beautiful leafy texture to it and has really attractive seed heads that are sort of dangly and beautiful. It's an important host plant for a number of different species of butterflies, and the deer don't like it. So there's that. It's got that going for it. I love this plant. I think it's beautiful. And also I have some shady spots that I need something really beautiful in. This is another really good plant if you have really damp spots. So areas that hold moisture or low spots in your yard. Um, it'll like those spots a lot. Camerinian augustifolium, fireweed, herbaceous perennial, full sun, medium to dry soil, 2 feet tall with a spread of 1 to 3 feet. Blooms June, July, and August. I do have some plants that I established a couple of years ago along my street front, but they have since been very small. I'm hoping that they will grow and I'll see them bloom this year. But I am starting some more. This can be a rather aggressive plant as it spreads by rhizomes in addition to its fluffy seeds. It is fairly manageable, but it might take a little work to manage if you have a smaller garden. Its flowers are bright pink, and its foliage is really sort of delicate, arching, long leaves that grow up along the stem. And in the fall, it has a beautiful red color to the leaves. So it's really striking fall plant as well. Also of note is it from about midsummer when it starts blooming, it'll bloom all the way through until frost. So long blooming for those beautiful blooms. Cleone galabria, or white turtlehead, herbaceous perennial, full or part sun, medium to wet soil, 2 to 4 feet tall, special value to native bees. This one has spikes of white flowers. The flowers are primarily pollinated by bumblebees. The pollinator needs some strength to be able to pry open the bloom in order to get to the nectar. It doesn't get very tall. I do have some establishing along my street front, but I haven't seen blooms yet from this, hopefully this year. Searsome discolor, or field thistle, herbaceous perennial, full to part sun, dry to medium soil, up to 8 feet tall. Blooms August, September, and October. Thistles have a really important role in ecology. They have a high amount of nectar and pollen, and really big pads of flower for larger and smaller alike pollinators. Also, the seeds, songbirds really love the seeds. So, hummingbirds, songbirds, and all different types of pollinators, this is a really useful plant for. These thistles that I'm going to be outlining here, they're not like bull thistle in how aggressive they are. I actually have to work to keep these in my garden, to be honest. This one, this color, has usually a paler or a more faded flower color. And while, yes, it's spiky, it is a thistle, it's not nearly as spiky as the bull thistle, the invasive one. Cirsium pumilum, or pasture thistle, herbaceous perennial, full sun, dry to medium soil, 1 to 3 foot tall, special value to native bees, attracts butterflies, birds enjoy the seeds over winter. Caution as it is sharp. Blooms July, August, and September. This thistle has a very soft fragrance, which does set it apart. Um, and I've also noticed that there tend to be more clusters of flowers on each stem. Also does not grow as tall as some of the other ones can. Thistles are a biennial plant. That means that they grow and have a rosette of leaves the first year, and then they grow a flower stalk the second year and set seed. And after they do that, they die back. So if you want these to be continued in your garden, you need to collect seed and make sure they start again. I'll repeat, if you like songbirds in your garden, if you like hummingbirds, if you like to watch butterflies, you really need to get some thistle. They really are standout plants for ecology. Danthonia spicata, poverty oatgrass, a grass, full, part, or shade, dry soil, up to 3 feet tall, larval host to the Indian skipper butterfly. Blooms June and July. This one will be new to my yard. It is a clump forming grass, um, relatively short, and as some of the leaves dry out, over time, some of the leaves get curly, and as they dry out, they persist. So you have these really neat little curly swirls among your other bluey greenish leaves. These sort of curly leaves are very diagnostic in terms of being able to identify this plant. It prefers less fertile soil, and it can get shaded out by taller plants, so it's really great along the edges of things. I think I'm gonna try to put some of mine along my street, like actually close to the curb along the street, um, and we'll see how it does there. Direvilla lonicera, northern bush honeysuckle, a shrub, full sun to shade, dry to medium soil, up to 3 feet tall, special value to bumblebees. Blooms May, June, and July. This will be, I think, my third year trying to get these to germinate. I have not had very good luck, so we'll see if this year does it. This is not a true honeysuckle. It's also not a vine, it's a shrub. It does look a lot like a honeysuckle, though, when you look at the leaves and the flowers. It has yellow flowers. It turns beautiful colors in the fall, and you can sip its nectar from the flowers just as regular honeysuckle. I have a nice spot for this picked out sort of at the westmost corner of my property under a pine. Um, it does tolerate shade. I think it prefers a little shade over full sun. Doelingaria umbellata, flat-topped aster, herbaceous perennial, full sun, medium to wet soil, up to 6 feet tall. Larval host to butterflies. Blooms June, July, and August. I grew this last year and got a lovely plant, and it flowered in the first year, which was wonderful. Planted it along my street front. I'm going to try to grow some more. This will take a variety of different types of soil conditions, but it is a really good one if you have one of those wet sites. Eragrostis spectabalis, purple lovegrass. A grass, full sun, medium to dry soil, 1 to 2 feet tall, blooms August. This is a shorter or a low growing bunch grass. It has beautiful little purpley tinges in it in the late summer. It's really a good one for that sort of low to medium level in a cultivated garden. It likes slightly drier soil, but is will take just about anything. You can also mow it, which is nice if you have an area that you want to a challenging area due to dry soil. You can put it there and you can even mow it. It won't take heavy foot traffic, but it will take some light foot traffic. I planted a couple of good sized ones in the garden last year, and I'm going to grow some more. I think these will be really spectacular. Eutrochium maculatum, spotted Joe pieweed, herbaceous perennial, full sun to part sun, medium to wet soil, 5 feet tall, excellent nectar source, attracts native bees, butterflies, and birds. Blooms July, August, and September. Joe pie weeds all have these big, puffy flower spikes that are sort of dusty pink, sometimes sort of a mauvey purple. Um, this one in particular thrives on full sun and medium to damp soils. This one is also a bit shorter than the others, topping out at about 5 feet. Eutrochium purpureum, purple Joe pie weed, herbaceous perennial, part sun, dry, medium, or wet soil, 4 to 6 feet tall, excellent nectar source, special value to native bees, attracts butterflies and birds. Blooms July, August, and September. This Joe pie is a more woodland species. It does not like full sun. It would prefer um, part sun or shade. So if you have shady sites, that's great. It'll also take a variety of soils, so dry, medium, wet. Um, it gets to be about 7 feet tall, so it's much taller than the one I was just speaking about before. Gentiana andrewsii, bottle gentian, herbaceous perennial, full to part sun, medium to wet soil, 1 to 4 foot tall, special value to bumblebees. Blooms July, August, and September. This has deep blue, purplish flowers that are closed. So a pollinator needs to be strong enough in order to pry open the blooms and get inside to get the nectar or the pollen. So it's mostly pollinated by bumblebees. It likes moister soils, and it's like a woodland edge type plant. So some part shade, some full sun, but definitely moist. If it's in the full sun, it needs to stay sort of more damp. Taking a little bit more variety of soils if it has shade. The flowers of this are very striking. They sort of just, I mean, they look like buds. They're like bright blue, purpley buds. They're really kind of a neat looking plant. I have some establishing along my street front, and I'm hoping to get more. Gentiana clausa, closed gentian, herbaceous perennial, full to part sun, medium to wet soil, 1 to 2 feet tall, special value to bumblebees. It's a slow growing plant to establish. Blooms July, August, and September. Clausa is very similar to the other one I just outlined, Andrewsii. The flower colors are the same, they're about the same height, they both have closed petals. One thing that I have noticed is that this one is a little bit more tolerant of soil moisture, so if it's more medium, it doesn't have to be quite as moist. I'm going to be growing both of them, so I'll be able to tell the differences in the future. Hydrophyllum virginianum, Virginia waterleaf, herbaceous perennial, part sun, medium soil, up to 1 foot tall. Blooms May and June. This will be my third year winter sowing Virginia waterleaf. I have not had it germinate. I haven't had any luck. So hopefully this year will be the year. It is a beautiful foliage plant with these sort of soft, quote, watermarks that have like a paler green part on them. They love shade, and that is what I am after. I'm after these for a shade plant. I would let them establish just about everywhere in my sort of woodland garden area. They also have a really pretty sort of light purple pom-pom of a flower that gets held up above the foliage. Looks a little bit like an onion flower almost, sort of in its shape. Hypericum aciron, Great St. John's wort, herbaceous perennial, full to part sun, medium soil, 2 to 6 feet tall. Special value to bumblebees. Blooms in July. This hypericum has larger yellow flowers than the other ones. It's also a much taller plant. This one requires more moisture in its soil and will take deeper shade as well. So definitely not a plant for dry, full sun, but otherwise you'll have good luck. Hypericum prolificum, shrubby St. John's wort. A shrub, full to part sun, dry to medium soil, 2 to 3 feet tall. Special value to bumblebees and other native bees. Attracts butterflies. Blooms June, July, and August. This hypericum is a shrub. It's a small statured shrub. It does like full sun and drier conditions, so it's good for those. And it's really nice. It's really fetching as a hedge. So think of this like a really nice looking hedge. Hypericum punctatum, spotted St. John's wort. Herbaceous perennial, full to part sun, dry to medium soil, 2.5 feet tall. Special value to bumblebees. Blooms July, August, and September. This hypericum looks much like the invasive hypericum, but it does have little spots on its yellow flowers. It likes drier soil. It'll take a variety of conditions, wetter, partly cloudy, partial sun. Its stems are really pretty reddish color. Liatris nova angliae, northern blazing star, herbaceous perennial, full to part sun, dry to medium soil, 12 to 42 inches tall, special value to native bees and butterflies. Blooms July, August, and September. I have been trying to get this Liatris to establish in my yard for about 4 years now, so hopefully I have some luck this year. It is a tall purple spiked flower. This is another one that prefers dry, less fertile soil, so it's great for your health spot if you have one. It is the only native Liatris in New England. It is only native to New England, so it's not native outside of New England, interestingly. Lobelia cardinalis, cardinal flower, herbaceous perennial, full to part sun, medium to wet soil, 2 to 5 feet tall, special value to bumblebees and other native bees. Attracts birds and hummingbirds. Blooms July, August, September, and October. Oh, this plant is so beautiful, y'all. So This is another great candidate if you're new to growing native plants. This lobelia and the other lobelias I have coming up are all really great ones to grow. They're easy to grow, they're beautiful plants, they attract lots of different types of pollinators, and including this one in particular, the red one, hummingbirds. I have some right by my back door so I can just stand there and watch the hummingbirds come and go. It's phenomenal and it's a beautiful plant. They do like part sun. They will take full sun, but they need a little bit more moisture. But they're generally very forgiving. One of the other things that I like about them is that they have a group of leaves that persist at the bottom of the plant. So even though it's a tall stalk with a flower on the top, there are still leaves at the base around the soil level. Lobelia syphilitica, blue lobelia, herbaceous perennial, full or part sun, medium to wet soil, 2 to 3 feet tall, special value to bumblebees and other native bees, attracts birds and hummingbirds. Blooms July, August, September, and October. This is the blue version. It is a beautiful blue plant. Um, it'll take full sun just fine. It likes a little bit more moisture in its soil. The foliage of this is slightly more light green, which is kind of nice. It gives you a bit of a foliage contrast among other plants. Lobelia syphilitica alba, white lobelia, a herbaceous perennial, full to part sun, medium to wet soil, 2 to 3 feet tall, special value to bumblebees and other native bees, attracts birds and hummingbirds. Blooms July, August, September, and October. This white one is actually the same species as the blue one, but it's sort of a naturally occurring white flower. The seeds from the blue one will sometimes generate white flowers. If you take the seeds from those white flowers, they could be white or they could be blue. So these seeds are more likely to have the white variant, but it's not guaranteed. Lupinus perennis, wild lupin, herbaceous perennial, full to part sun, medium to dry soil, 1 to 3 feet tall. Larval host plant for the frosted elfin butterfly and special value to native bees. Blooms May, June, and July. This is one of my favorites. These have beautiful blue purpley flowers on spikes. They also have really striking foliage, sort of palm-shaped foliage. I have 2 sites in my yard where I think that I've got these established, which is good. So I'm going to add more plants to that. I've also been trying it out in a couple of other places around the yard, so we'll see how that goes. They like dry, well-draining soil, traditionally in sandy-ish soils, and they're a little bit particular about their location that they like, and they won't establish somewhere that doesn't suit them. Lysomachia hybrida, river loosestrife, herbaceous perennial, full to part sun, medium to wet soil, up to 3 feet tall, special value to native bees, blooms June and July. This one is new to me, so I don't know a whole lot about it. I do know that it prefers moisture in its soil. It has really pretty yellow flowers and is sometimes called swamp candle. Mimulus ringens, Allegheny monkeyflower, herbaceous perennial, full to part sun, medium to wet soil, 2 feet tall. Special value to bumblebees, attracts butterflies, hosts for the Baltimore checker spot and common buckeye caterpillars. Blooms June, July, August, and September. This is another one that's good for your rain garden or spaces that stay very wet. It also does perfectly fine in medium moisture soil. It does not like dry soil. The blooms are lavender purplish. They look a little bit like snapdragons to me. It's a relatively small plant. It'll take sun or part shade, and it will spread out and make a nice ground cover if you let it. Monarda didyma, scarlet bee balm, herbaceous perennial, full to part sun, medium to wet soils, 2 to 4 feet tall, attracts hummingbirds and other butterflies, special value to bumblebees and other native bees. This is a beautiful red Monarda species. These are typically short-lived perennials, at least in my experience. They are a little particular about their growing sites. In the wild, they like higher elevations. Um, they make a lovely tea. They have been traditionally used as medicine and tea. Ecologically, though, they support a lot of long-tongued bees, butterflies, and hummingbirds. Monarda fistulosa rubra, or purple, wild bergamot, herbaceous perennial, full to part sun, dry, medium, or wet soil, 4 feet tall, attracts hummingbirds and butterflies, special value to bumblebees and other native bees. Blooms July, August, September. This picture here is the regular Monarda fistulosa. It is a purple lavender-ish Monarda. These next two varieties are fistulosa species, but they are naturally occurring color variants. One is sort of a reddy purple, and the other is sort of a deep purple. We'll see how well these grow and how distinct they are once they come up. Fistulosa is a very versatile plant. It can take dry or moist conditions. Full sun usually will take a little bit of shade though. Monarda fistulosa rubra red, wild bergamot, herbaceous perennial, full to part sun, dry, medium, or wet soil, 4 feet tall, attracts hummingbirds, butterflies, and is a special value to bumblebees and other native bees. Blooms July, August, and September. This is the fistulosa rubra. This is the red, the more red coloring. We'll see how it does when it comes up, and I'll give it a good comparison um, to the dark purple and also the regular lavender purple fistulosa. Penstemon hirsutus, northeastern beard tongue, herbaceous perennial, full sun to shade, dry, medium, or wet soil, 1.5 feet tall, special value to bumblebees and other native bees, attracts hummingbirds, host for the Baltimore checker spot caterpillars, blooms May and June. I've gotten a lot of really cute pictures of beetox poking out of the back of one of these flowers. This is also a really great one if you like hummingbirds. So full sun is fine. It will take a little bit of shade. Which is nice. In the fall, its leaves turn really bright red, and then over winter, its basal leaves are evergreen, so they're still sort of green even though it's super cold outside, which is nice to have. Penstemon pallidus, pale beard tongue, herbaceous perennial, full to shade, full sun to shade, dry, medium, or wet soil, up to 30 inches tall, special value to bumblebees. Blooms May and June. This one is a new one for me. I actually bought some of these too. So this seed is locally collected, but I did buy some seed also. You'll see that in a future video. Um, this is a shade-loving penstemon, so it has sort of pale pink, white flowers, and it's blooms in the shade. It should look like cute little sparkly flowers in the shade. Physostega virginiana, obedient plant, herbaceous perennial, full to part sun, medium to wet soil, 4 feet tall, good nectar source, attracts butterflies and hummingbirds. Blooms August and September. Obedient plant has a spike of bright pink flowers. They're pretty distinctive looking. This one makes a great ground cover. It can spread, but it is easily controlled. It will take partial shade as well as full sun. Prunella vulgaris, common self-heal, herbaceous perennial, full to part sun, medium moisture soil, 2 to 12 inches tall, special value to bumblebees, attracts butterflies, host for clouded sulfur caterpillars, great to add into lawns for a bee-friendly lawn, and plant amongst other plants in the garden and at edges. This is another really nice ground cover. If you clear an area for it, it will certainly take over and make a dense mat. And if you have other plants near it, it tends to play nice with those plants and not overtake them. It is a very short plant, so a couple of inches tall. It can be mowed, and it will take minor foot traffic if you wanted to try it as a alternative lawn. This one has a long history of medicinal use as a general heal-all type medicinal plant. Pseudonophyllum obtusifolium, rabbit tobacco. An annual, full to part sun, medium to wet soil, growing up to 3 feet tall. Blooms August and September. This one is an annual. It has a short lifespan, but can reseed if it likes where it is. It looks complementary to Pussy Toes and Pearly Everlasting, so my thought is to plant them all together so they will look sort of nice and cohesive. It likes the same kind of dry, full sun conditions. Has a really distinctive looking white flower, and it is fuzzy. And y'all know I love a fuzzy plant. Solidago cassia, blue-stemmed goldenrod, herbaceous perennial, full to part sun, dry soil, up to 3 feet tall, relatively small goldenrod, and is not aggressive. Blooms July, August, September, and October. This goldenrod is really different looking from your regular goldenrods. The yellow flowers on it are a good bit bigger, and it has these graceful arching stalks. It kind of reminds me of the shape of a forsythia. It's also not an aggressive spreader, like sort of common goldenrods, and it will take some shade, which is hopefully where I can get it established in my yard. Solidago odora, or scented goldenrod. Herbaceous perennial, full to part sun, medium to wet soil. Supports butterflies and at-risk bees. Blooms July, August, September, and October. I'm creating a really nice stand of this sweet goldenrod or licorice scented goldenrod. I've got a good bit. I have some plants already established, and I added some more last year, and I'll add some more to that same area this year. The leaves, when you crush them, have a really nice fragrant smell. Um, Otherwise, the flower looks a lot like your goldenrod flower, yellow plumes at the top of tall leafy stems. This one is also not an aggressive spreader. I feel like I have to qualify that with goldenrods. Even though most goldenrods are not aggressive spreaders, the ones that you commonly encounter are fairly aggressive in spreading the Canadans and rugosa. Solidago speciosa, showy goldenrod, herbaceous perennial, part sun, medium wet soil, 3 feet tall, special value to native bees, attracts butterflies and birds. Blooms August and September. This goldenrod really lives up to its name. It looks like your regular goldenrod, but sort of a souped up version. The flower panicles are big and bold and beautiful. It is also not aggressive. This is actually, if you want to get a goldenrod for your garden, I highly recommend this one. It's very versatile in terms of soil and light conditions, um, and it will bring all the pollinators to your yard. Sorghastrum nutans, Indian grass, a grass, full sun to shade, medium to wet soil, 3 to 8 feet tall, special value to bumblebees for nesting materials, larval host to the pepper and salt skipper butterflies. Blooms August, September, and October. This is a tall, dramatic grass. It has really tall, pretty, feathery seed heads. Um, in the fall, it turns beautiful colors of yellow and russet, and it's an incredibly important anchor plant in a prairie, in a native prairie. It has long, deep roots, and it provides a lot of shelter and food for native wildlife. Spirea alba, white meadowsweet, a shrub, full to part sun, medium to wet soil, 3 to 6 feet tall, special value to native bees, attracts butterflies, host for the spring azure butterfly, blooms June, July, August, and September. This is a beautiful shrub with delicate small leaves all along each cane, and at the top of each cane you have a white puff of flowers. This is a shrub that you might find in more traditional cultivated landscapes, this sort of meadowsweet. It is a really beautiful plant. I have some establishing in a variety of places in my garden. I'm hoping I can get some to grow together as a bit of a hedge. Spirea tomentosa, steeplebush, shrub, full to part sun, wet soil, 2 to 3 feet tall, special value to native bees, attracts butterflies and birds, host for the New England buck moth caterpillar. Blooms August and September. This cousin to the alba looks much the same. It's a shrub. It has delicate leaves all along each branching cane, and at the end it has a puff of pink flowers. It is like a beautiful pink. This one also has sort of a silvery sheen to its leaves due to the little hairs that it has. It does require more moisture than alba. Scutellaria lateriflora, mad dog skullcap, herbaceous perennial, full to part sun, medium to wet soil, 1 to 3 feet tall, attracts native bees. Blooms July, August, and September. This is an attractive short-statured plant that has small purple flowers. In nature, this is often found in very wet sites, but it will do okay in medium moisture sites too. It has a long history of medicinal use, uh, used as a tea and as a calming agent. Zizia aptera, heart-leafed zizia, herbaceous perennial, full to part sun, medium soil, grows up to 3 feet tall, blooms May and June. This has yellow flowers that bloom early in the spring, and therefore is a really important species for pollinators. Its basal leaves are heart-shaped, and that makes it distinct from the other zizia. It also will tolerate drier soils with a wide variety of soil tolerance from wet to dry. Zizia aurea, golden Alexander, herbaceous perennial, full to part sun, medium soil, 1 to 3 feet tall, special value to native bees, attracts butterflies, host for the black swallowtail caterpillar. Blooms May and June. Also an early bloomer with yellow flowers, it's an important food source for pollinators. Both zizias are a host plant to swallowtail butterflies. This one prefers a little bit more moisture in its soil and full sun. Zizias are a wonderfully striking plant. They work great together as a low hedge or individually as specimen plants, and they bring a lot of color to the early spring. And that, my friends, wraps up this video. I hope that you have enjoyed looking at all of these potential native plants. Um, I am really happy to have gotten all of these seeds from the Open Space Preservation Committee. And y'all, I'm going to leave you with this fireplace because it is cold outside. And I hope you join me next time. Bye.